Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth podcast. I'm Anish Gupta,
I'm Srikar and Anish.
and unfortunately, again, Jack cannot be here with us. I think he's still dwelling over the loss of Jamal Adams still, so pray for him in the comments section.
Never going to get over it, man.
Yeah, going through a lot as a Jets fan. 2-14 on the way, I hope. No, I'm just kidding, but we'll see. But this episode today is going to be about the Denver Broncos, and the question basically is, are the Denver Broncos the most improved team in the AFC? And Srikar, you want to kind of give a recap of the Denver Broncos 2019 season and what it is to look forward to?
So they began 2019 with a new head coach and 4 consecutive losses. And by season's end, the Denver Broncos did post a 3rd consecutive losing season. A team that won Super Bowl 50 in 2015, and they began the following year a perfect 4-0, has now lost 37 of its last 60 regular season games. But, if you take a much closer look at what Vic Fangio is doing in Denver, it shows that his squad closed with 7 victories in their final 12 outings, and that included 4 wins in their last 5 contests. And the lone loss over that stretch to the eventual Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in the snow.
Yep.
So while a 7-9 record is hardly anything to get excited about, it was the close of the season with Drew Lock at the controls that was eye-opening to every NFL fan. That and the fact that after a slow start in which the Broncos failed to come up with a sack in their first 3 games and didn't force a turnover during that 0-4 start,
Yep.
the Denver defense emerged as a force by the end of the year. And this offseason, it's been reported multiple times that Locke has been getting some work in with his teammates. John Elway bolstered the club's pass-catching core by using the team's first 2 picks on Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. The offense added Melvin Gordon to the backfield and Graham Glasgow up front. I don't know how to say his name, so I apologize
we had trouble pronouncing it the entire time.
Oh, man. So if we just sound like idiots, we sound like idiots. Back to the defense, though. This offseason, the Broncos managed to acquire Jarrell Casey for a 7th-round pick, which is a big steal. And they also dealt for A.J. Bouye. They're going to acquire the talented defender from Jacksonville for a 4th-rounder this year. So the pieces appear to be in place. And, you add Casey and Bouye to a unit that's being spearheaded right now by Von Miller. That unit looks way more formidable. And Locke has the opportunity to build on his solid finish from a year ago. And he's now surrounded with even more options as Gordon and Jeudy join Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant. So the Denver Broncos appear to be a team very much on the rise. My question, we have the big question of, are they the most improved team in the AFC? But some secondary questions to also wonder, are they done adding veteran talent this offseason? Because, of course, Jawan James opted out. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking a good slot right there, Jason Peters, potentially, unless he's already signed. I think
they might. Whoa, I think they might have re-signed him. I think the Philadelphia Eagles.
Jason Peters?
I think so.
If he's still on the market, that's a
I think they did. I think they did. 99%.
And then my second question then was, can they finally push the Chiefs in the AFC West? Because I think we can agree that the Chiefs are just a lock for that division. But I think the Broncos can definitely give them a run for their money.
Yeah, so I think Srikar gave a very good recap. Stole a little bit of my points, but it's okay.
I keep doing this, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I love I love what you said. So I think with the Broncos, you brought up Jerry Jeudy, you brought up KJ Hamler, who did get locked up by Jeff Okudah. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there. But another good pick I thought was Lloyd Cushenberry, a great center. I don't think he could play outside, which sucks for them, but he was a monster for LSU. He was second-team All-American. He did great things for them, obviously, in their championship run. So I think he's a good up-and-coming center. That's one guy I wanted to mention. I got him in the 3rd round, I believe. And obviously, Hamler's a great target. Jerry Jeudy is there. You gotta give due to Cortland Sutton. And I have a friend who's still mad at me for putting Devontae Parker over him. Yes, I still think Parker's better, but Sutton is right there with him. I think he's a top 15 receiver. He is amazing. He can get a deep ball in any given. I still remember, I think the 1 touchdown Denzel Ward allowed was on him, so I got to give him credit there. 6'3" frame, he can get you any ball, as well as he's a good possession receiver, great hybrid, so I think Cortland Sutton is there to stay. I think they will give him his money. Just watch out for him. Obviously, Justin Simmons, we talked a lot about him on the podcast. Justin Simmons is a guy I think was it you or Jack who said he would lead the league in picks? I think it was Jack, but
It was Jack.
yeah. So I mean, obviously he had 4 last year, 15 passes defended, 93 tackles. I still believe he should have made the top 100 over Buda Baker, but I guess it just didn't turn out that way. But I mean, again, Bradley Chubb comes back. 12 sacks his rookie year, one of my favorite defensive prospects coming out of that draft. I believe he's just a force to be reckoned with, to be honest. I like the 2 Chubb cousins, Nick Chubb and Bradley Chubb. Love for both of them. And,
healthy Bradley Chubb, I forgot to mention. That's an improvement on its own.
I think he's going I had him as a candidate for leading the league in forced fumbles. I think he's that tight. He's that good of a dude. I think Von Miller, though, obviously in the previous episode, I stated prime Von Miller was an absolute beast, but last year I just didn't see the same. 8 sacks, it was good, but I need him to kind of have that resurgence. And he just recently stated he watched The Last Dance and he said, I need to be better. And yes, I think he still needs to be. He's still got some left in the tank. Obviously, the Super Bowl 50 MVP. But, going back to, I think, let's talk about Drew Lock. One of my favorite intriguing quarterback prospects. And yes, there's another friend out there who's a Raiders fan. Drew Lock is better than Derek Carr. Please don't. I don't want this argument. So calling out guys left and right here. But, I mean, Drew Lock is a stud, 4-1. That is what he has the intangibles. And I know, Srikar, you pointed to the Texans game that he had where they won 38-24, threw for over 300. But for me, the best game for at least I saw was against the Chargers because he had to overcome a ton of drop passes by Deshaun Hamilton on crucial second down. Like nothing was working for him that game, and he found a way to get down the field and tie it. And then, I think it was take the lead. And then, Chargers tied it. And you know what? There were only a few seconds left. Most quarterbacks take it to OT. But he decided, you know what, I'm just going to chuck it up. And he got the pass interference call. And they won the game off a field goal, but it was the risk that he took there. He showed me, okay, I'm not afraid to throw it if I think I'm going to win this game. And that is what I like. I like quarterbacks with those intangibles. I think that's what makes quarterbacks from good to great. And I think he's got it. Obviously, 4-1, I think that's the main key here. He needs to throw the ball a little bit more downfield, even though I know he's not afraid to, but his yards per attempt has got to increase. Just throughout the game, really. But in the fourth quarter, I think he's been great. 2 game-winning drives already on his belt, 1 against the Chargers, 1 against the Lions. So 2 in 5 games, I think, is very impressive. So I think we got to give Drew Lock his due there. Obviously, we've had a debate on who's the best second-year quarterback. I think this guy's going to take off. But, I mean, the question is most improved team in the AFC. So, obviously, I think Drew Lock is only going to get better. Running back situation, I think with Melvin Gordon, a 2-time Pro Bowler, obviously a consistent goal line running back. He just gets touchdowns, man. I mean, there's 8+ touchdowns the last 3 years. Dude's a stud. So, and then you get Phillip Lindsay, who's electric out the backfield, especially in the receiving game. Receivers got a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Right? Oh my God. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, you just got to watch his routes, man. I think this is it's like Devontae Adams.
His route running something else, man.
I mean, it's insane. He will get cornerbacks literally shifting and looking away on these in routes that he does. And it's just amazing to see. I think he's got Devontae Adams level route running, if I were to say it. In college, I don't think he was second to none. And I think he was a big part on Henry Ruggs' success. I think Henry Ruggs is a bit overrated in that regard because I think Jerry Jeudy allowed him to get open for those deep passes because he was just getting double teamed all the time. So I think Jerry Jeudy's, in my opinion, the best receiver in this draft class. And then obviously KJ Hamler is a great slot receiver that you can throw in there. He's fast, he's quick, he's an electric playmaker. So, and then obviously Noah Fant, he's just getting better. 1st-round pick last year. I think he's only going to get better. He's had his flashes. He's had his big catches. He can turn a small reception into a big gain. Offensive line is getting better. Glasgow, I can't pronounce it. Whatever, but he had a 70. he had a 72+ PFF grade. Sorry, PFF grade.
There you go.
That's very good. He allowed 0 sacks last year in 15 games. I mean, they're rebuilding this offensive line. Obviously, they've had issues ever since Okung left. So now I think it's getting better. Though James opting out I think is a big loss. And we just mentioned the playmakers on defense. I mean, Boye, Casey, Miller, Chubb. Alexander Johnson is another guy I think he can break out. He's honestly a candidate to lead the league in tackles next year. Bold pick, but I think he's really, really good. Number 45 from the Broncos, Alexander Johnson. Watch out for him, guys. I think he's a good defender, especially in pass coverage.
So, I think with Drew Lock, I know, like, I shouldn't go overboard on such a small sample size. Of course, you have the final 5 games of the season, but
Mhm.
there was a lot to like about Drew Lock. I think if I had to give a comparison, Matthew Stafford potentially,
Okay,
and I
not
think
bad.
if Elway has finally stabilized QB,
Mhm.
it would be huge for the franchise, of course, and for him personally. I mean, the Broncos' poor quarterback play during the past however many seasons,
4
I
years
think that's
hasn't
kind of
been
weighed
well.
on him a bit.
Mhm.
And it's kind of ironic because here's John Elway, one of the best QBs of all time, who's missed so many times at kind of
Paxton
stabilizing
Lynch.
QB. It's just,
Honestly, yeah.
but I mean, I'm really glad that he finally found that QB. And of course, Anish mentioned that the one game that really sticks out to me from the rookie season of Drew Lock was the road win against the Texans in Week 14. I mean, it would be he was on the road. He went down to Houston. He put up a 136 passer rating, 22 of 27 for 309 yards and 3
Mhm.
touchdowns, and 38 points on the Texans, who were playoff bound. And I think it was a pretty impressive showing. And of course, it's that type of performance that's led to so much hype around him. Well, and the fact that the Broncos invested a ton to make sure he has enough talent around him this season. So, I mean, last year's late run, it's both a blessing and a curse because while it's given the Broncos hope, it's also raised their expectations. The bar
Yep.
has been
Good
set
point.
high.
Good point.
I believe Drew Lock's up to that challenge though. I mean, I think he's a fearless quarterback. And to the defense, I kind of wanted to touch on Von Miller a little bit because he had single digit sacks for the first time since 2013 when he
Forever.
had that injury.
Mhm.
And he's 31. I think it's reasonable to say that we've seen the best of Von Miller already. He might be a little bit past his prime, but
Yeah, yeah.
even the current version of Von Miller is still pretty darn good.
Oh yeah,
Um,
easily a top 10 pass rush. Easy.
oh yeah, for sure. I think he's a great veteran presence for that Broncos defense. Of course, he's going to help Bradley Chubb. Um, and as we said before, like a healthy Bradley Chubb is a big improvement on its own. Like
Yep.
I really believe in this guy. So, um, I mean, I think Von Miller's still going to be the guy that defenses key in on, but that's just going to open up more opportunities for Bradley Chubb to get after the quarterback. So I think it's a great D line for the Broncos, especially when you add in Casey.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Good run stuffer there. I mean, I think this linebacking core really, I think it's top 5. I mean, again, I like Alexander Johnson, love Von Miller, love Bradley Chubb. I think they're good hybrid of pass coverage and rushing the quarterback there. But I think with the Broncos, right, let's get back to the question. Most improved AFC team. Now, we've highlighted this with the Chargers vid. Look, AFC counterparts have gotten better. And I think you're right. I love the point that you said, with the Broncos, yes, they did well towards the end of the year, 7-9, but now their expectations are pretty high. And with their own 4 start, I still remember it was just 3 of their 4 losses were by 1 possession. And I was getting that Chargers vibe from them. And I was like, oh no, don't tell me we're going to get 2 AFC West teams that can't finish a game. But then obviously we got a guy who can finish a game in Drew Lock. And that's what I like. When I saw that was my turn because, I don't watch many games during the day. I mean, obviously I got my Browns game and I'll see an afternoon game, but I don't get that much time to watch them. But when I saw that Broncos Chargers game throughout, and when I saw it, that fourth quarter really spoke to me, and I think that was when I said, okay, I'm a believer in Drew Lock. But I think a lot of people have them going 9-7, and that is one team I totally agree with. Basically every media member. I think they're a perfect 9-7 team because, dude, their schedule is so brutal. Like it is
oh
so
yeah,
bad. I mean, NFC South, Chiefs twice. I mean, Chargers are never just an easy win, even though the Broncos have shown they can beat them. Same thing with the Raiders. The Raiders have kind of done well against the Broncos recently. I mean, but like their schedule, dude, it's like, I mean, it's just
it's
absolutely
tough.
brutal. I feel for them really. Like, I mean, there are just some games where I'm looking at it and like, can you beat the Buccaneers? Can you? I mean, it's so tough to say right now. Like, can you like people are saying they're probably the one team that could upset the Chiefs. I think they can. I think they can get a divisional game out of them because that's you can't have the Chiefs going 16-0. I don't. It's just so hard to predict. So
But
I
see,
think
when we're like looking at the most improved team, do you think who would you rather bet on to make the playoffs, the Chargers or the Broncos?
Broncos most definitely.
Mhm.
I think it
So
comes down to
see,
Drew Lock. I think he's the guy.
I
Like,
think I think for 2020 to be just like successful in general, you need to see progression from Drew Lock.
yeah,
And I mean, I'm not saying that like if you're a Broncos fan, you're going to be happy to miss the playoffs as long as Locke plays well. Of course not. But I mean, having a stable QB, having the quarterback position firmly settled, that's going to go a long way. And then again, going to the playoffs is important too. Locke wasn't a first-round pick, so the Broncos don't have that fifth-year option.
Good point.
So for the Broncos to take advantage of Drew Lock, they need to make the playoffs this season.
I think, you're seeing more teams as of right now go with the quarterback, for their rookie year contract, because that's when you can really build around them and take these veteran players and actually sometimes overpay for them. But it's worth it in the end because the quarterback is still making no money. So you have this money to spend. And you know what, with the Broncos, I think they're actually one of the teams like improved talent-wise, roster-wise, yes. I mean, there are so many pieces that they get back and along with the pieces that they added. I think Glasgow is one of the best guards in the NFL. I think he's easily a top 7 guard in my opinion. So I think there's a lot of improvement there. I think there are other teams like the Colts. I think they've vastly improved with Phillip Rivers. I think they made some pieces. Buckner. I think Xavier Rhodes will have a bounce back year. That's one team. Browns made some improvements. Obviously, the Chargers made a lot of them. I mean, I think the Broncos are in that tier 3. Jack and I kind of established that a couple episodes ago, right? You got the Chiefs and Ravens 1 and 2. You got the Bills Titans kind of in that tier 2 range. And then you got the tier 3 where it's like the Browns, the Broncos, Chargers, the Colts, the Texans. There's so many teams fighting for, those last 3 spots. The Steelers is another one. I think I might even throw the Dolphins in there, but we'll see. Patriots is another one. But, with the Broncos, I think no preseason really hurts them because, how is Locke going to adapt with these new weapons? How is Bradley Chubb going to get accustomed to NFL action back from that torn ACL? I believe that's what he suffered from, right? And how is Boye going to adapt to this new system with Justin Simmons? I think it'll work out with Kareem Jackson is another good safety that I forgot to mention. Same thing with Jarrell Casey. He's getting up there in age. How is he going to adapt with Von Miller, Alexander Johnson, and Bradley Chubb? I know it's going to work out in the end, but I think the preseason would have been great for them to kind of show that, especially with the running back situation. How are they going to adapt with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay? How is that going to work?
Don't forget Royce Freeman too.
Exactly. So who is, because now I don't see Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's maybe that first and second down back, but then again, I think Lindsay could also be that
Lindsay's
too.
going to make strides too, yeah.
It's so weird. I think for sure you got to make Lindsay the third down back. I think that, like, if I were them, that's what I'm doing because he's great in passing situations. Is Melvin always getting the first and second down carries? Like, it's so weird. It's hard for me to imagine, but obviously if Melvin Gordon's available, you get him. But I think he lost his holdout situation because I think he could have gone to a team that was way better fitted than the Chargers. But
would you say the Broncos are a top 10 football team, like on paper?
Oh man.
I've been thinking about that for a little bit.
That's a tough question. I think honestly, I think they are top 10 on paper. Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
I think they are, but also it also depends on a lot of development of some key players. Yep. So like Fant is another one I think he's got to develop. Locke is another second year that's got to develop. Hamler, Judy, young guys, but I think on paper it looks really really solid. This team, and I think 9-7 is where I have them. I think I have them making the wild card barely. I think they're probably a 7 seed. And you know what? I'll take that. But, can they, upset the Ravens probably potentially if that's their wild card matchup? I don't know. Probably not. Sorry, Broncos fans. But you know what? I think they are playoff bound. I really do think that. I think they will win some games. I think they'll do well against their divisional counterparts. And I think, when I say the AFC got better, this is probably the team that I would highlight the most. I think to answer this question, I think they did improve the most. I mean, again, 0-4, I thought this team was rebuilding. I thought, oh, crap, they're going to have to hit the reset button. Bye-bye Von Miller. Bye-bye. Like, there were talks about it, too. So I was like, okay, wow. I mean, this team just won Super Bowl 50, and now look at them now. But, I mean, they're looking sharp. And I think when people ask me, why the Broncos, it's actually not because of their pieces that they brought in. It's because of Drew Lock. I think his development is going to be key for them hitting 9-7.
I think if I had to give like you can keep going. I was just gonna give a record prediction.
No, go ahead and then I'll kind of finish.
Okay. So after going 7-9 last season, finished the year by winning 4 of your final 5. Broncos make some strides in 2020. All these offseason additions, I think they do make the Broncos look like a top 10 football team on paper. But Denver, Anish touched on this. They face a tough schedule. The AFC West, I'd say, is the best division in its conference. And Denver also faces the NFC South, which is the second toughest division in football, arguably the first. I think Vic Fangio and this team, they've had their eyes set on the playoffs. And to guarantee a playoff spot, the Broncos likely need 10 wins. However, there's still a good chance Denver makes the playoffs. No. I was going to say, I think there's still a good chance Denver makes the playoffs with 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Because 7 teams make it from each conference, not 6.
Yeah.
So there's still a good chance Denver makes the playoffs with a 9-7 record. Honestly, I could see the Broncos finishing 2020 with anywhere between 7 and 11 wins. It all depends on Drew Lock. Because on paper, this is a great team. However, many of the team's key pieces are either extremely young or potentially approaching the end of their primes. And by the end of their primes, I mean like AJ Bouye, Jarrell Casey, I already talked about Von Miller.
Yeah.
So regardless of how this season plays out, I mean, Denver's success hinges on Locke becoming a reliable starter. This isn't the Denver defense that carried Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler to a Super Bowl. So if the Broncos
I still give Peyton credit for it, but
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
So I think if the Broncos just want their 2020 to be successful, you got to perform on both sides of the ball without slipping up because of inexperience or old age, like I noted before. So I'd say 9-7. I think that's good enough to get them into the playoffs, maybe as a 7 seed. But yeah, I think that's just how I close it out. So
you'd say you give them the title of most improved team in the AFC?
Yes, I would.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And you know what, Drew Lock, please prove me right. I actually have, I think, like a $20 bet on this. Drew Lock will be better than Derek Carr. So please prove me right. I want my money. So I think to kind of wrap this up, let's hope the Broncos can make it. I think both of us are believers in them. I think they've improved vastly on offense and defense. So to kind of wrap this up, please follow our Instagram down below. Our socials will be in there, as well as our Spotify link, Apple Podcast. Please check it out there. And I think that's all for today. We'll see you next time.